Coach, first of all, could you talk about how you felt the team executed the new offense today?
I think we had our ups and downs a little bit today. I mean, we had a lot of young players that were out playing right now, and so it wasn't a well-oiled machine, but that's usually the case when you have a number of kids that are at different levels of experience out there trying to put it all together. But we made some good progress over the course of the springtime and feel pretty good about where things are going. Tom Snyder did not play today. He got banged up a little bit last week, and we didn't want to take any chances with him, and he's really picked up the offense quite well and is executing it well. And it was a good opportunity for the other two guys to really get a lot of reps today. And that's, I think, the most important thing about spring football is to really find out what your young people are capable of doing, and I think we got a chance to get a lot of that today.
On the flip side, the other two phases of the game, could you talk about the execution defensively and special teams?
Well, again, it's kind of hard to judge sometimes, when you're looking at your offense going against your defense and, what's strong and what's weak. It's really going to be fun to line up against somebody else here pretty soon, and we'll have to wait a little while for that to happen. But, I think our defense is doing well. Right now we're a little thin on our defensive line, and with a few injuries, not anything major, but some things that kept guys out of the last week or two, so those guys started to wear down a little bit. We have some young guys in the secondary that need to continue to come along, and I think that's happening. Special teams wise, there was a whole mixture of different things going on out there, and I think some good learning experiences, and that's what we try to get out of spring football.
Several big plays out there. Talk to me about your guys' big play potential.
Well, we got some good team speed. We got some guys that we can get them out in the open and make stuff happen. They can go to the house, and some of those guys are young players, and that was part of last year. We got a little bit of experience under some of those guys' belts, and then this spring a little bit more. And once we get those guys fine-tuned, so they're making the plays consistently and executing at the level that they have to execute at, I think you're going to see some exciting things happen with some of those people.
What about your secondary? You moved some guys around that are now in your secondary that were on offense last year. Just a little bit about how that's been going. It's kind of tough to make that kind of a change, and how are those guys adapting?
Well, again, it's a learning curve, with a lot of those guys, and we're trying to put people in the best situation that can help us as a football team. And we moved a few of those skill guys over to play on the defensive side of the football, and like an Alan Freeman at a corner and stuff like that. Guys like that have great athletic ability, but are still young, and it's that learning curve that we're going through in the spring, and now it's got to crank up another level when we come into camp next fall. And by game time, some of those young guys got to be ready for prime time.
How about a player like Leonard Curry moving from linebacker to fullback, which is a position never utilized before?
Yeah.
Talk about what you think he might be able to bring to the team as a ball carrier and block.
Well, I'll tell you, Leon is a horse.
Leon.
Yeah, Leon, you got his twin brother there,
right,
but
yeah.
But Leon's a horse. I mean, that man is very, very physically strong and is a good athlete. I mean, he can catch the ball pretty well. If you want to get a running back to iso block and do some of those kind of things, you're not going to find too many people that are going to do a better job than what he can do. And we're trying to put him into a situation where he can help our football team, the most. And he's picked up our offense quite well over the course of the spring. So there's some places that we can use him. When he touches the football, he just needs to go straight ahead. We're kind of breaking it out of his. He's not going to dance by anybody. But I'll tell you one thing: he's about a 250-pound guy that can crank it up. And there's not too many guys that are going to stay up there. There's going to be a lot of ankle biters that are going to be trying to go low on him because he'll just run you right over. But the thing that he brings to the table is the ability to have a guy in the backfield that can come out and take on linebackers and take on defensive ends and be a dominant factor, and he can do that. And there are some places in what we do offensively that we can use a guy like that, and so that's where he fits.
My final question is, what do you think the biggest accomplishment of the spring drills was this year?
Well, we had some challenges in spring. I mean, number one is our offensive players adapting to a whole new system, and Coach Bowden came in about a week before spring ball, so we didn't have a lot of opportunities before spring football to really get them on that same wavelength. I really like our system that he's brought to the table. It's a well thought out system that I think is user friendly, and I think our players have grasped it pretty well. Not where they need to be yet, but I think you put 3 weeks of early camp on what we've already established. I think they're going to be very comfortable with what we're doing. Right now we're throwing a lot of screens. We threw a ton of screens. We'll throw a lot of screens next year, but it's getting that timing down. And a screen sometimes can look really ugly. If that one guy is a second off, getting out there and getting on one of those perimeter guys. But when it does start to click, it can go the distance, and we got a lot of reps tonight at doing that, and those are all good positive things. The other thing is, like I talked about earlier, is just getting some of these young players in our program to the level that they need to be to really help our team be successful. And we got some good young football players in our program. It's a matter of getting them to mature and to be able to execute at the level that they have to execute at, to be successful.
And where does the program go from here in terms of evaluations of the spring, maybe some additional recruiting and summer programs? What kind of things are you guys going to be working on here in the next few months?
Well, right now, the next step in the process, every football player in our program will sit down with his position coach and talk about the reality of exactly where they're at. It's no trying to make somebody feel good about themselves. It's about, here's where we are, guys, and you want to have them leave on a positive note too, but they have to really leave on a reality note. This is where you are right now. This is where you need to be. Okay, each player will meet with their position. Then I'll meet with every guy in his football program and challenge them as they go off over the course of the summertime, because it's critical. I mean, if these guys just show up next August and, okay, let's go play football, that's not the way it works. Right now, we, according to our sign-ups and according to the people, showing an interest and expressing an interest to stay over the course of the summertime, we have over 40 guys that have made a commitment to stay here over the course of the summertime, and that's huge, and I think that's something that these guys got a little chip on their shoulder, and after we went through what we went through, we're not going to sit around and just let things happen and see what are going to happen. I'm excited about the players in the program that are willing to make that commitment and move forward. So it's critical how they go through the course of the summertime. The guys that can't stay up here will have to come back in the middle of the summertime and prove where they are physically. There's guys that have to do internships, and there's guys that have summer jobs that just absolutely can't be here. Well, that's fine. That means if you're out on your own, then you have to have the self-motivation to push yourself to the level that you need to push yourself. And then when we roll here in August, when we come back as a football team, it's all business, and it's nice to see we got a big group of our recruiting class here tonight. We got a lot of those kids that are moving up over the course of the summertime. We're also, between now and the end of the summer, we're going to add a half a dozen more players to this program. We're in contact with every junior college in the country right now. We're working on a couple guys right now. We had a guy in here last weekend that was a Division I player. We have a junior college kid out of California that I think is a real talented skill player that we're talking to. So we're gonna bring a few more guys to fill in some of the gaps that we need to fill in. We have to be too deep at every spot. If we're not too deep at every spot, then we're going to need to be lucky, because injuries happen, and I don't want to count on luck. And last year, some of that stuff happened where, you got a couple guys go down, and then that next guy that's ready to step up is not at the same level that you need to be at. So as a coaching staff, we're going to find those people. And so, I mean, that's what it's all about. It's a year deal. I mean, just because spring ball's over doesn't mean we're on vacation from here until camp starts. I'm not taking any vacations. I mean, until we get this thing where it needs to be.